Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut Remix channel, a brand new channel that will be dedicated to everything and anything but Toyota and Lexus, because we have an entire channel dedicated to that. On this channel you will see almost a mix of everything: reviews, car repair, and everything, all makes and models. Not as much as the main one, because I do specialize in Toyota and Lexus, but I do work on enough and review enough of these cars to have a dedicated channel and not mix the content together. So today we are looking at this 2019 Nissan Pathfinder. And every time I hear the name Pathfinder, it just reminds me of a 4Runner, because once upon a time, this was actually a body-on-frame truck that was similar to the 4Runner. They were actually pretty good trucks. But somewhere along the lines, and due to the Frenchness of Nissan lately, they decided to make it a crossover or just a SUV, not really a truck. So this is actually not body on frame. This is kind of like a Highlander, I guess. But we do have some problems with it, mainly brakes. We're going to change the brakes. But before we do, let's take a quick tour inside and we'll look under the hood and we'll go from there. Let's take a look inside this Pathfinder. And the first impression on the interior when I looked at it, it's actually a little on the simplistic side. Cloth seats, it's just basic actually to a point. Something with Nissan that I always notice, they love their buttons. I mean, there is a million buttons here. Not a lot here. 4-wheel drive button. You can actually switch it. Most cars in this segment, you're just always in all-wheel drive and it automatically disengages. This one you can actually switch it. It does have a lock, which is pretty cool. Let's look at the miles. Looks like we have 42,722. Nice navigation screen. Very old school looking, but I think this is towards the end of the generation, and that very famous sound to remind you of the key. Well, let's go and look under the hood of this thing and we'll see what we see. Let's take a look here. Well, there's no shocks. Pretty low hood. I mean, I'm not really that tall, and this is as far as the hood goes. That's pretty low. Anyhow, let's look under the hood here. You know, I was looking at this earlier. There's something you guys gotta see. This conundrum right here, this enormous overcomplication, engineer's dream, whatever you want to call it, is the power steering pump. I have two questions to Nissan engineers. What was wrong with a belt-driven hydraulic power steering? And better yet, what was wrong with just electric power steering? Don't know why we need an electric pump to drive the hydraulic power steering. It stands in the way and it just makes absolutely no sense. I don't really have a lot of experience with these, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if this is a reliable system or not, but I do know one viewer who was actually a Nissan technician at a dealership, switched over to Toyota. But if you know about this, bud, Andrew, you tell me in the comments. These have problems? If they don't have problems, then it's just a overcomplication that's in the way. This is a 3.5 liter V6, VQ something or another. Doesn't look too bad to work on over here, but over here it's a little tight, especially with this giant thing in the way. It just doesn't look the easiest to work on. Got our coolant reservoir here and our washer. A little bit of space here. Not too bad. Looks like something with these. Fuse block maybe? There's a bunch of them here. I don't know why they can't combine them in one. Batteries right here. It's a bunch of ECUs. And this looks like the engine computer. Pretty standard stuff for cars these days to put them under the hood. But I don't see any leaks from the top. I mean, it is, after all, a newer truck with very low miles. So I'm not expecting to see much. But the main thing that we are doing to this car is the brakes. And when I say we're doing the brakes, they are metal to metal, flat out. That's why the car was brought to me. This is a good friend of the family. They brought me this car, and noise from the brakes Yeah, they're metal, so we're doing actually four-wheel brake job. We'll take a look at that. As far as I remember from experience, Nissan doesn't have anything different on brakes than Toyota. It's just simplistic brakes. So before we start the brake job, I'm gonna make sure that our brake fluid is low, which it is. It's like actually below half, so that's what it should be. You just don't want, when you do brakes, you don't want the brake fluid, somebody topped it off and now you're spilling fluid everywhere when you push the calipers. So that's good, we're all set. Let's go ahead and lift this thing. We'll do the brakes, but before we do the brakes, we're gonna take a quick peek underneath it, make sure nothing's leaking, nothing seems out of the ordinary, and we'll continue. Alrighty, let's take a look. What do we got here? Folks, I did remove a cover that was here just so we can take a better look. Here are the brakes. This one is almost there, but the inside is there. And this is not the one that is metal to metal. That's in the back. We'll take a look at that when we get there. But here is the oil filter, very nicely located right here. It's an original Nissan filter. That's good to see. Drive belt doesn't have any cracks. That's good. And I see a small seepage already. Well, this looks like a front timing cover where it meets the lower oil pan. Looks like a similar design to what we have in Toyota land, but different construction, if you would. But it's still front timing cover. I guess it's a universal problems around the world. Suspension looks good. No rust in this car. I mean, it's not really that old. Aluminum control arm. One thing I noticed is there's cracking on this control arm bushing. Not an issue, but we wouldn't have liked to see it at a car that's this age. But it is what it is. If that's the worst of it, we're doing pretty good. Let's go look underneath this car and see what we see. Alrighty, double flex pipe, double the trouble. Flex pipes are notorious to corrode, and we have all kinds of problems with them in Toyota land as they get old. We're actually trying to get away from them, but we have two of them here. Rusty exhaust, that's very typical. That's something I noticed with Nissan. Every Nissan I look at, the exhaust is really, really rotty very, very quickly. That's just the way they are. Looking at the engine here, we potentially have another seepage here. Not as big, but see where we are at with warranty on this thing, because that's the second seepage I see, and it's dry up there, but it's wet right by the pan. And I'm not seeing anything else that is wet here, so that's about it. Let's look up here. This is the beautiful or not so beautiful CVT. Folks, Nissan gave the CVT name a bad one because of their horrendous transmissions. I hope at this age we do not have issues. And I'm looking here, and I hope you could see it, but is that coolant crust out of the head gasket that I see right there? Not a biggie, but okay, so that, I guess head gasket leaks, external ones, are universal across the manufacturers. Here's a transfer case, nice and dry. They did have all kinds of problems with transfer cases. In earlier model, I remember placing a transfer case on a Murano, 2003 I think. They were notorious for that. Fun job. But yep, that's your CVT. We got a fluid exchanger here, warmer, cooler. Let's look at the rest of the car here. Fuel tank. Got a little bar to protect the fuel tank here. And as you see, if there's anybody that likes old Pathfinders, the gleaming absence of the body and frame. This is just a unibody, so gone is the body and frame, sadly. Let's go in the back and check it out some more. Okay, let's look in the back, and the first thing I notice is, you hear that? That's very nice. Well, the plug, it's missing. So somebody's been here already? Or is there no plug from the factory? Wonder. And here are the brakes. We'll take the rotor in a little bit and we'll take a look at that. But same design here, very similar to a Highlander. Upper arm and spring is separate, so no McPherson strut here. Interesting. Pretty cool. Spare tire underneath. So see, it still has some of that old schoolness, if you would, that it inherits. But it's actually a space saver, so that's interesting. Okay, we can do that. And they have the same style spare tire carrier. In Toyota line, these things had so many recalls on top of recalls, and this one is super rusty too. Look at these bolts. It's a 2019. It's a little too rusty, but could be worse. Look at the differential here. Nice and dry, no issues. Suspension, nothing seems to stand out to me here. Quick inspection. There's a charcoal canister. That's an easy spot. I bet you now that it's an easy spot, it never goes bad. If it goes somewhere crazy to get to, it goes bad all the time. Just how cars work sometimes. That's like right there, very simple. Well, I think we are looking pretty good here. I don't see anything that's standing out. No major leaks. We do have a few seepages in the front. We're in the back. We're all good. The driver's side rear, that is metal to metal. So let's take it apart and see what we see. Huh. Interesting style pin. I haven't seen those in a while. Maybe 4Runners still use a similar style, but not really passenger, just regular SUVs or whatnot. This is something I gotta say about Nissan. They always put some kind of suspension where you can get an impact. You can get an impact on this, but not the bottom one. I've seen many models like this. Interesting. Well, let's take the spat out, take a look at it. This one is almost gone. This one is the one that's actually metal to metal. Oh yes, you got your money's worth out of this one. That's it's very dangerous, folks, because it gets to the point, this is actually the back of the pad. There's no longer friction material left, if you would, and eventually you grind through this metal thing and it's gone. It just falls off, and now all of a sudden you push the brakes, it just goes straight to the floor because the piston needs to come out. Speaking of the piston, let's try to compress it, make sure we don't have any issues with our caliper here. Nah, this is good. There's nothing wrong with the caliper. It's time for new brakes. One thing I have to say about this is whenever you do brakes on your car, this rubber boot, you do want to make sure that it sits back in its place, because eventually it gets caught by the piston, and now you rip it out, dust gets in, and that's how you start locking up your caliper. And you'll have air in it. Just kind of pop the boot out to let the air out. Carefully, don't pinch it. Don't start the wear. Well, now, this is the beautiful design from Nissan. You can't get this bolt out, at least easily. You either gotta lift the suspension to move this arm up, or just take the whole holder up. Beautiful engineering. Beautiful. Now let's take the whole holder off. And here it goes. Put this boot back that popped out. This looks very similar to like an old Highlander. Same exact design. It's actually extremely simple. Looks exactly like any Toyota. Even Hondas are like this. There's no crazy screw-in caliper or something of that nature. One thing I noticed, the cover is here, the little cap here. So it's definitely missing on the other side. You're gonna have to order one, because I don't, usually the Toyota Land, I'll have one or two laying around. Not with Nissan Land. Maybe it'll fit, I'll try it. Let's get the rotor off. go. There we go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is very dangerous. This is metal to metal. This rotor is junk. I think otherwise we might have been able to cut these. We'd have to measure them or whatnot. But we already got rotors for this thing. They just didn't want to experiment with that. So, important thing, we're going to get our little cap off over here so we can swap it over to our new rotor. At least on the one side that we have it. There you go. Don't forget this. Most Toyotas have it with parking brake. That is here. And apparently Nissans too. Let's go look at our parts, see what we got here. So here are the beautiful Value Advantage Nissan group. So apparently Nissan, just like Toyota, they have their original fancy factory stuff, and they also have this value stuff. Of course, the value stuff is cheaper, so cheaper is betterer. I am very impressed with the rotors because they are sealed. And if I am not mistaken, these are actually coated. Pretty cool. Looks like a very nice coated aftermarket rotor. But let's look at the pads, and this is where it gets a little interesting. Now, I don't know about you, but the only brake pads that I see wrapped in a little piece of paper like that are aftermarket ones. Nissan aftermarket. And then, when you look at the pads, they're not exactly very beautiful. Look at the edges, and the shims are different. And they do not say Nissan on them anywhere. So, for lack of a better word, these are, and I think it comes with a grease here. That's very nice. Yes, it does. It comes with a sample Moly brake lube, 2 grams. That's enough for one pad. Anyways, it comes with everything you need. Not the fit kit. That is interesting because if we look at the rear ones, comes with all the hardware. Same wrapped in a little paper, like a very good aftermarket one. But oh well, it is after all a Nissan, so at least we have some original-ish parts. Let's take the fronts out and see how bad they are. This is a 17 and a 22 millimeter, because 22 is better than 19. Okay, very big dual piston caliper, very nice. Well, the inside is worn. Pins are free. Well, let's take the bracket off. Here is the bolt that holds the caliper bracket. Looks like a control arm bolt, but that's what they went with. Okay, well, we got a little bit of abnormal wear here. You see, this one is chewed up. This one is not too bad. If both of them were like this, we wouldn't be replacing these brakes. But we're going to investigate that. Starting with the caliper. Let's compress the caliper and see what we see. Let's see. So when you compress calipers to check them, you just kind of, you start with a little bit of force and then it just kind of goes. Because once the piston starts moving, you shouldn't have any resistance. I mean, I'm barely putting any pressure here. That's moving in beautifully. So, and if you're curious for your car, why are these pads wearing uneven? Pins are good, not seized. Actually, what happens is the pad is not moving freely here. So you're gonna want to do a really good job cleaning these, and it should be good. One interesting thing I wanted to show you here. So here are the bolts for the caliper bracket, and here are the bolts for the strut. You can probably tell on camera, well, they're actually smaller. I don't know, that just doesn't look right to me. Should be the other way around, but that's how they went with. And here's that the back end of the famous CVT transmission. Now, this could be an improved version. I'm not really very familiar with exactly what year things got better or not. Maybe they didn't get better. Again, Nissan, singular Nissan tech that I know of, or anybody else, please feel free to chime in. Is Nissan still ruining the reputation of CVTs? Because we do not have issues in Toyota land with CVTs, but we still have the bad rep from Nissan. So there you have it, folks. Not a bad car. I actually like this thing. It seems very simple for typical DIY stuff. That belt's going to be fun. Anything engine related is going to be fun. Spark plugs don't look too bad, but the engine's a little too big. Car is a little too small. That's typical of V6 and SUVs. But as far as brakes and like typical maintenance filters, whatnot, DIY, seems pretty simple. Don't know about that CVT reliability though, because they do have a horrible reputation. But again, I don't have any data to give you on this one. We're exploring, me and you. Cars are cars. I'm a mechanic. I can work on them. But am I an expert and can tell you exactly what exact year like I do with Toyota? Not really. But I hope this video was helpful and informative, guys. Consider subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you like this channel, you like the idea. This is not going to interfere with the main channel. Not going to be as frequent of videos, but you know, will join me in the shop. Maybe we'll get a car review here and there. One car that is on my list is a Tesla. There's no press car Tesla. I can get press cars from other manufacturers, but Tesla thinks they're too good for the members of the press. So I might just end up renting one from Toro and driving it, dissecting it, and seeing what we see. Look for that video, Toyota Technician. It reviews a Tesla Model 3 or whatever model I can find. Folks, I hope this video was helpful or informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos on this channel and on the original channel. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.